know why this is always so scary.
I know. It's like once I hear that voice that says recording in progress, I'm like, what do I do?
I know, like
I
I forget
say,
how to talk.
what am I doing here?
This is, if you aren't aware, Ellen Explains It All, episode 2. Oh, if you hear my cat yelling, he's being very bad over here.
Oh,
Um, he wants to be on the show. But this is episode 2 of Ellen Explains It All, where I, Ellen, talk with our leader. I won't say fearless leader because I was corrected last time
so
that
fearful.
she's a very fearful leader, actually. Amanda Chin. And we answer your questions about the workings of AfterWork Theater.
It is
Cool.
my pleasure to be here on your show. I'm so honored
Yes.
to talk to you. You're the
My
best
very
interviewer I've
special,
I've ever experienced in the last month.
I was gonna say my very special guest star every month.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm excited to dive into the community's questions.
Yeah, for sure. Before we start, during our pilot episode, I asked Amanda what her favorite Broadway show was, just so we can get to know her a little bit more. And this month, I was wondering, what is your favorite genre of movie?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Because I like a lot of things. I like
Mm.
superhero movies. I like any
Mm.
kind of media that's been adapted from a comic book.
Mm.
I like thrillers and movies with that are plot twisty. Like I love a twist. I would say like it's easier for me to say like movies I tend to not gravitate towards are like
Mm.
rom-coms, or anything too drama-y. But that being said, I do like historical dramas, so I don't know. Like it really kind of depends on how the mood strikes me.
Mm.
That's like
Yeah,
the
I don't.
worst answer to this question.
No, it's super valid. I don't really like rom-coms either. I went through like a mini phase in college where I kind of liked a couple of them, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, because half the time I'm like, just talk to each other. Like,
Oh, sure. Like, oh, another misunderstanding.
yeah, it's like just have a conversation.
Like literally just ask one question.
All right, well, super great answer, actually. Don't feel
Thanks.
bad about your answer. And also, before we start, because it's relevant to the topic of today's episode, show selection, I wanted to give Amanda a chance to introduce our new program manager here at AWT.
Yes, we have a new program manager, and their name is Reva Stover. And she started about a month ago and immediately caught on to what our vibe is and what we're all about. And so, I mean, I was planning on a minimum of a 3-month transition period, and already they're off and running. So, my answers to a lot of these questions will be sort of like what I've been doing for the past few years. And I sort of handed things off to Reva, being like, this is the way I used to do things, but like, feel free to do things differently or, put some, different thoughts into how you're choosing shows. As long as it fits with our goals here at Afterwork Theater, like, I'm super okay with you doing things the way you want to do them. So, in a lot of ways, like, my answers to some of these questions will be about like my processes or like my philosophies on show selection. But over time, they may adapt and change. I doubt they'll veer too far off course because so much of it is about being aligned with who we are as an organization. But many things might change.
That's so exciting. I can't wait to meet them, hopefully.
Yeah, they will be
Um,
at the prom launch day,
oh, I will not be
which
there,
I know you
but
won't.
I'm sure others watching and listening will.
Yeah, yeah. And they'll be
Uh,
around. They'll be around.
yeah, it's awesome. On that note, our topic for this episode, like I literally just said 5 minutes ago, is show selection. Surprise! You all voted on this topic, which, to be honest, kind of surprised me a little bit at first. The number of people who wanted to hear about this, but like the more I thought about it, the more it kind of started to make sense. I feel like show selection is such a big deal and can really make or break a season for
Mhm.
people. So I get it. After further thought, I get it.
Me,
Um,
same here. Very
Yeah.
surprised at first, but I get it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. All right. Then without further ado, ready to dive into some community
I'm
questions?
so ready and excited.
Yay. Lots of good stuff in here. Also, very big turnout question wise. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right. First question. Is there any hope for ever doing a slightly smaller musical in the future and not just as a boot camp? Something like Into the Woods, Sunday in the Park, Company, any Sondheim, LOL. In other words, do fully staged musicals have to be able to accommodate a 40 person cast to be considered?
Great question, and very perceptive of the person to pick up on the fact that like boot camps do allow us to do have smaller casts and do smaller shows, but I totally see that there's like a middle ground there. The answer that I always say to anything is possible. What would have to work out are the numbers. So we'd have to see if have the cast size is a huge, huge contributor to the income of a program in terms of the tuition. And then the
Mm,
number of participants then leads into ticket sales. So if we only had two participants, they probably wouldn't sell as many tickets as if we have 40.
yeah.
So the answer is we'd have to do the math. So if we're having fewer participants, we might have to do things like three casts, which we did with Rent, which may be closer to what this person has in mind, the format that we used for Rent, which did fall somewhere between a boot camp and a main stage. So like three casts is one way to do it, but another thing to look at are some of our other costs. So if we can find cheaper, smaller theaters, if we look at the rights and we see that, okay, well, if we do fewer performances, the rights won't be as expensive. And like if it's a shorter rehearsal process, then we wouldn't have to pay the creative team as much because they're not there for as long of a time commitment. So like all of these things would have to factor in to see if we could do something with a smaller cast size. Truthfully, the easiest thing that I can think of is the three casts, which is, you know, why
Yeah.
like every time I suggest that to people, they go, oh,
Yeah.
particularly creative team members. And again, the experience is totally different, but if there's a call for smaller cast sizes and an ability to do certain shows as a result, these are the trade-offs that we would have to talk about. And I'm very open to it. And now that Riva's here, Riva could spend some time working on those numbers and seeing if we can make it work.
That's awesome. That's like, there's so many things involved with that decision that I had never considered, and I doubt many people have. So
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
totally.
Alrighty. How do you determine the programming outside of main stages? Like, what moves you to say fall is going to be a dance out, spring is going to be a sing out? Why are some seasons boot camp seasons versus play seasons?
Great question. So usually, so when I budget for a year, our fiscal year starts in July, and I typically start the process of budgeting for the next fiscal year in like February,
Mhm.
January, February, March, pretty much February. And so at that point, I usually know what theaters we have booked for the next fiscal year. And that, in a lot of ways, contributes to what I think works best in each of those theaters. That being said, and we always do show, we typically do like a main stage musical in rep with an out. And then if there is a play that season, that will have its own week. And then this coming spring, which is wild to be thinking about spring, we will be doing what is planned in the budget is a musical and a dance out in rep, but a sing out like in its own week at a completely different
Oh,
theater.
wow.
Because I looked at the sing out program and I was like, we can definitely do a sing out in a smaller space. And like we don't like a dance out wants that nice big stage that like the musical has, but I was like, we can do a sing out somewhere else. So in a lot of ways, the theaters and the spaces we have determine what we're doing. And then other ways it's just having some variety, you know?
Mm.
And I think the goal now, which this coming fiscal year, we will have two sing outs in the fiscal year and we will have two dance outs in the fiscal year and a play. and a boot
Oh,
camp, which we already did. So check that off the list. And
oh.
I'm not sure if that fully answers this person's question. And I'm, Ellen, I don't know if there's any follow-ups that come to mind for you, if you have a better sense of like what the question is really trying to get at the heart of. But I'm happy to provide more info.
I don't know. I think that answers the question. I don't know. I'm excited about this sing out in a different space.
Yeah,
Made
me too.
my ears perk up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you answered that pretty well. If the person who asked this has a follow-up,
You know
ask
where
it.
to find me.
Yeah,
I'm in Sirovich
all the time.
all the time while these people stand perfectly still in the background.
Oh, here's a question I've had in the past. How much flexibility do we have to modify scripts?
Hmm. Our license pretty much always demands that we not change a single line in the script
Mm,
without written approval. And that is what is in our contract. And this is going on
okay,
YouTube.
so that's what we're gonna say.
So that's what we're going to say.
Okay, gotcha. Got it.
Yeah, come find me.
In Sirovich.
In Sirovich.
All right, then, moving on. Uh,
It's like the recording at the shows, you know?
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
just don't ask me to set up the tripod for you. Come on.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, this one does not involve contracts.
Right.
What are the top criteria you look for in selecting a show, and what would be the most to least important qualities out of those top criteria? So I guess what are the criteria, and out of that top criteria, it's like a tongue twister. What's the most important, I guess is the question.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess, well, first it has to be in our budget. So for
Mhm.
example, the rights to Greece are like $40,000 for some reason. And our budget
Mm.
is $7,000. So
Wow.
that's one thing. And
Wait, you said
that's not
Greece?
what?
You said Greece?
Greece.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know why.
That's insane.
Also,
So,
I don't really want to do Greece anyway.
yeah,
So
don't hold your breath for Greece
don't hold your
anymore.
breath for Greece. Sorry. So I wouldn't even say that's like criteria. That's just a showstopper,
Mhm.
literally. We look for shows that have either large ensemble or like the easy ability to add ensemble. We look for multiple parts. So like if it's really lead heavy and it's like one person or two people are doing the whole freaking show,
Mhm.
despite the fact that there might be other characters, like that tends to not be great for us unless we do find like really juicy things for everyone else in the cast to do. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's really it. And it still just boils down to budget, right? Like the reason
Mhm.
why we have to have, we look for something where 40 people on stage and in the rehearsal room we'll be having a blast and be having a lot of fun. It's because we need the budget. Like we need to meet
Yeah.
a particular budget. Yeah. But other than that, like we'll do funny shows, we'll do serious shows, we'll do tear jerkers, we'll do sensitive material.
Mhm.
We'll have everyone, all these 30 and 40-year-olds play high school students, if not, kid like orphans, like, yeah, we'll do it. Anything's on the table. And that's for
Awesome.
musicals. For boot camps, like then again, we can look for smaller ensembles, and just, a more intimate experience for those shows.
That was actually the follow-up question. Does this differ between main stage and boot camps? But
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
psychic. So,
The other thing we might look at for a boot camp is like one, it's smaller cast, but also like, ooh, this music's like really, really challenging.
mm,
And yeah, it's only like literally 8 days of rehearsal, but
mhm,
if most of it is music, we could dive into something really juicy. And maybe we'd add like 3 more rehearsals if we happen to pick something super, super challenging.
mhm. Ooh. Is it true that we cannot perform slash get licensing for shows if they're being performed within a certain mile radius? If so, does this apply to professional theater, community theater, or both?
That's a really great question. And in some ways, it's like a little bit murky and a mystery to me. The rights holders sometimes give absolutely no reason why they're rejecting us.
Mm.
And sometimes they say there's a touring production at the same time, or there's a professional production in the area. They've never said what the area is. I don't know if that means it's on Long Island or it's in the Northeast. And again, some just reject us and they're like, we're
Mm.
sorry, we can't give you more info. So that is true from what I understand, and that they're trying to minimize like oversaturation of a title in a
Mm.
specific area because they want the show to be commercially successful,
Right.
just like anyone else. Yeah.
It feels like when you like apply for a job and get through 3 rounds of interviews and then they go, we're moving on with someone else. Have no feedback. Um,
Yeah.
it sounds like that.
It feels a lot like that.
Yeah. Kind of related to a question we had earlier, kind of parallel. Is it true that after work can't do a show slash get the rights to shows like In the Heights or Once on This Island because of how important race is to those shows, which contradicts their casting policy, our casting policy?
Interesting. One, I will say it's not true that we can't or don't try.
Mhm.
And two, I wouldn't necessarily say that like the requirements for casting those shows are against our own casting philosophy because we believe in honoring the integrity of stories, particularly if they are stories of marginalized groups or underrepresented groups. So, like, we would never be like, oh, we're doing ragtime again. And because we believe anybody can play anything, anyone can be up for the role of Cole House. Like that is not true.
Mm,
We would say
yeah,
Cole House has to be, and it's because that is a underrepresented like story and a marginalized group that does not often get stories of their own told. Whereas the opposite, if it's we do Legally Blonde, like white blonde women are not like
right.
they've had plenty of stories out there, right?
Right.
Like Elle Woods can be played by anyone as far as I'm concerned. So I would say we would put a lot of thought into whether
Mm.
we're going to do that. We'd take a real hard look at our community and see if we feel like we could cast the show in a way that honors the original storytelling and the story that we want to tell. And I think I doubt there's any show out there that we would feel like we absolutely can't do
Mhm.
for that reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Funny you mention ragtime. Why are some shows done more than once? For example, Rent and Urinetown, while others aren't. For example, Hair and Ragtime. What goes into making that decision?
I mean, anything can be done more than once. We just
Right.
started doing them. Like Rent, which was 2 summers ago, I think, is the first time we repeated a show. So we
Mhm.
just are starting to get into it. We picked Rent, one, because we got the rights and
Right.
it's hard to get them. And two, I just thought it was a cute story, a cute throwback to have Cardozi and Dewey direct and music direct that show when that is the show where they met the first
Yeah.
time. And then when Molly and Cody were gonna direct and music direct a show, we were truthfully choosing between Urinetown and The Drowsy Chaperone, and I let them choose. But I was like, you can choose. I have the rights to both of these shows, but it would be cool if we did Urinetown.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, that's what they chose. So I'm Hair is on the table. What was the
Mhm.
other one? Ragtime.
Ragtime. Yeah.
Ragtime is totally on the table. Yeah, there's any show that I mean, I would look at recency. Like
Mhm.
we're not doing Cinderella again anytime soon.
Right.
But like I think either of those we've done long enough ago that it's on the table. I try to get Legally Blonde every single year. I've yet to be successful, and now I don't have to. So
I didn't know that it was so recent that we started like repeating shows. I didn't realize that Urinetown was the first repeat.
yeah, well, Rent was, and then you're in.
Rent, not
Yeah,
Urinetown. Sorry.
yeah. Oh, that's okay.
Um,
Urinetown was the second one.
yeah. Well, there you have it. Don't give up on your repeats. They could happen.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Which comes first in order of importance? Getting the show rights, picking the creative team, or getting the theater space? Which one largely determines what show will be done?
Just in terms of like, we have to do it in this order. The theater comes first, and it's because I have to book the theater like a year in advance,
Hmm.
or else we don't have theater space.
Right.
So I've had this entire fiscal year booked for 6 months now, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, so that comes first, but not because it's the most important, but because like it just has to be done then. And then between the creative teams and the shows, it's a little bit of a like chicken and egg scenario, because there's and again, this is how I did it, and who know, like Riva may choose a different path, but like generally I like the music directors and directors we work with a lot. I keep like a running list of like, what shows do you want to work on?
Mhm.
um and then and also like, what is your general availability? So like, I know who's available in the spring but never available in the fall and things like that. Is it something I very formally kept track of? Absolutely not. It like all exists here and in random notes in different places, because I'm a very disorganized person and Riva is a very organized person. So we'll see what changes. And then I will, because it's like no guarantee you'll get the rights, and in some cases you're waiting 2 to 3 months to hear back. I would just start applying for things. And I would apply for these because I know this person likes it, and I'd apply for these because I know that person likes it. And then I'd start to get the acceptances back in and start to puzzle piece together like who could work on it and when.
Mhm.
So it's not that one is more important than the other, because it just sort of has to, you're sort of like building the plane while it's in the air, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. All connected. Well, I think I know the answer to this one, but to get it out there, why are performances not allowed to be recorded in full and uploaded publicly to YouTube?
But it's part of our license agreement.
Yeah.
They're really adamant about no recording for the book shows. It is also technically against the rules for the sing outs and dance outs as well. We do what I think what people tend to not realize is we do license that music. It's just done in a different way. Instead of
Hmm.
licensing ahead of time, we send a report to BMI and ASCAP and say, we used these songs in shows, we sold this many tickets, we made this much money, and they charge us for that fee. So once we put it on YouTube, like we definitely can't monetize it. But also our license with them is not for video uploads. It's for live performances. Yeah.
Rock on.
Yeah.
What are certain shows that Afterwork may never do and their reasons why? And then the example they gave was Spring Awakening.
I don't see why we wouldn't do Spring Awakening. I actually, to be honest, I don't know much about Spring Awakening. So
Mm.
if there's a rumor that we would never do that, it didn't come from me.
Yeah, I don't know where that's
Um,
coming from.
yeah. We might do Spring Awakening. I like that one song that I know. Um,
Does have bangers.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, will probably never do the last 5 years.
Mm. Yeah.
40 casts of two. I don't know. Yeah, just super, super small, no ensemble musicals,
Hmm.
probably. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, kind of related to the Spring Awakening thing, I guess. Are sensitive or mature topics a factor in show selection? Do you try to choose shows that are more family or child friendly, or is there a possibility that AWT could do a show that deals with more serious subject matter that might not be suitable for all audiences?
I think anything's on the table. We're an adult program, so the folks who are in the shows are all over 18. I mean, obviously, if it's kid friendly, that opens us up to a wider audience, but I also wouldn't say kids make up the majority of our audience anyway. We've done, we did cabaret, we did ragtime. So, sensitive subjects are not off the table for us. And in fact, I would look forward to a bit of a change of pace and maybe, not play a high school kid anymore and do something else. I say, as we're about to launch a program where half of the cast will be high school
We'll
kids.
be high school
So,
kids.
yeah.
Right. And this is our final question here, right on time, as Zoom's telling us we have 10 minutes left. There have been instances where certain lines or traditional staging has been changed because the content was inappropriate. When, if at all, does a discussion happen about sensitive topics in the show and who decides what should be cut changed? And then, is there ever a discussion about how the creative team is going to introduce sensitive material to the cast in rehearsals?
Yeah, I would say like the answer is yes to all of those questions, but I will also acknowledge like my time and my like focus has been spread pretty thin in the
Mhm.
past because I was both doing the program manager job, but I'm also trying to be the executive director of this organization.
Right.
So I think, you know, one of the benefits of having Riva join our team is that she will be able to focus more of her time and formalize, be closer with the creative teams to guide them through some of these changes and some of these discussions. And I will say like, you know, sometimes I'll go to a show and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting that that happened. And I take accountability for not being there and to be a part of those conversations. Um, and you know, we're always continuously improving and we're always trying to be better at what we do. And I think you know, I think the fact that we've had thought at all put into some of these changes and some of these, you know, parts of the script that didn't really sit well with us. And we
Mhm.
can just tighten up that process a little bit more. So
Mhm.
the answer is yes, and also, you know, learning along the way and taking the feedback that we've gotten
Mhm.
to tighten up that process a little bit more.
So you would say it's sort of like a joint between program manager and creative team effort to,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also learned, like, even when we've had really well thought out plans and plans of
Mhm.
communication, like we learned, oh, it could even be more than that.
Yeah.
So we're really learning about the level of information that we have to give out before it truly is internalized and expressed in an environment where people feel, you know, safe and free to respond to that and give their own input.
Mhm. All right. Well, that's it for the community questions.
Oh, wonderful
Um,
questions. Thank you,
yeah.
community.
Thanks, guys. To close us out, Amanda, is there a myth that you would like to dispel
Oh
about
my God,
AWT?
I
Oh,
knew
did you
you were gonna
forget?
ask me that and I forgot. Let me
Oh,
think. Let me think. Oh, I do. I have one.
good.
Say last time. Oh, that I'm scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not necessarily like there's a one specific myth, but I hear most seasons people are like, well, it was very clear that there was a favorite cast.
Mm,
And I can say from talking to the creative teams, either one, there was not a favorite cast, or two, there was a favorite cast and it wasn't the one that you thought. So,
mm,
and also the yes, there was a favorite cast, I say with like a little bit of humor behind it because they're
mm,
truly the creative teams don't play favorites. They
mm,
see differences in the two casts, and they might see that one cast needs a certain kind of need and another cast needs a different kind of need, and therefore treats them differently in that sense, which I agree with. But no, there's never like an obvious favorite cast that gets treated better or is given the better shows or gets more
mm.
attention during rehearsals. That is absolutely, I can just say with confidence, that's not true. And I understand that that is what people are experiencing, but like, let's talk about it and let's figure out,
Mm.
let's get to the bottom of why it feels that way and see what we can do to address it.
Yeah, definitely great myth dispelling.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that before?
I have heard that.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
Love a good myth bust.
I love a good myth bust. Next time I will remember. I'm running out of myths.
Oh no. Okay, well, if
No,
we
I mean,
run
I can
out,
probably think of more.
okay.
I have to think of it ahead of time.
If we run out, we can do something else.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, as
Thank
always, for being
you.
so open with the community. I'm sure everyone appreciates it. I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking about some more AWT rumors and myths in
Yeah.
the future.
See what's on people's minds. I
Yeah,
can't wait to learn what the next topic is going to be.
I know. It always like this surprised me, but
I'm so surprised, especially when one of the options was money.
yeah.
Like three people
Yeah.
voted for that, including our board treasurer. I get it, Tori.
Well, I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah,
someday.
I do too. And I'm ready. I love talking
Yeah.
about money.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Ellen. I really appreciate this. You're a wonderful interviewer and host and a great liaison to our community.
Goodness. Well, you're a great leader and interviewee.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna hit stop now.